Talk me through this weekend's match. What are you guys hopeful for, and what are you going into it envisioning?
Well, it's been a long pre-season. We started back in November and we've had 11 weeks of training. We've had our Wallaby contingent back for the last couple of weeks, and we've found really good connection with those players. Boys are very desperate to play a trial game now, or to get into rugby. That was very noticeable last week when we sort of went through our last pre-season week, and there's a bit of frustration out on the paddock. I think we're all looking forward to seeing how we progress in this pre-season. It's another year together. The bulk of the squad have stayed together. The coaching staff have stayed together. So we've learned a lot of things out of last year and want to see how it transfers onto the field now.
Talk me through the new players that are going to be showcased in this season.
We've got a couple of academy players that have come into the squad, and most of those guys are going to get an opportunity this weekend. So everyone who gets on the park will be about 50-50 in terms of their game time. So if they're slashed with another player in their position, we're going to try and give them equal amount of time out on the field. Those young players that have come up from the academy, they've fit in really well. It's for all of them, it's not actually their first pre-season program. They were part of our pre-season program last year as well. They missed out. Some of them missed out on trial opportunities last year, so there'll be a few nerves for those guys coming into this week, but they've trained exceptionally well through the pre-season. We've got a couple of players from the Melbourne Rebels who've joined us as well, notably David Feluai, Dwayne Tuolima and Tima Vanganuku. So those guys will get an opportunity to put the Brumbies jersey on for the first time as well. So again, they're guys that have trained exceptionally well through the pre-season block, and we're just excited to see everyone really get out there on the park. But particularly for those guys, I think it'll be a very special moment for them.
As a coach, how important are those trial matches for you before the season kicks off?
Trial matches, I mean, certainly from a player's perspective, it gives them an indication of where they are. The challenge, I guess, coming to trial matches is you're coming in cold. We've been training for 10 weeks, 11 weeks now, but it's the live contact that is hard to replicate in training. We certainly put a lot of contact in our training, but it's more controlled, so we'll be open field and we'll be full live tackles and breakdown contests, ball carries. So that's the bit that makes players a little bit nervous. That's the bit that we look forward to when we get into the trials, because that preps us for the season.
What do you expect from Waratah this weekend?
Well, they're putting a very strong side out there. I don't know if it's their strongest side, but on paper it looks very strong. Their Wallaby contingent mostly back in the team. And I guess it's for them, it's a trial game to test those combinations as well. So we'll sort of see how they show up. It's their first game. They've been, similar to our Wallabies, they've been in the environment for a couple of weeks now. So those combinations, I guess that's probably a question mark of the Waratahs. They've got a very good squad. They picked up a lot of quality players from the Rebels. The challenge for them will be finding that combination, and this is the first chance for them to test that combination. But for us, we're putting our strongest combination out there in the first half as well. Strongest, certainly our most experienced combination in the first half there. We've got lots of things that we've worked on in the pre-season that we're really focused on. So, we haven't prepped anything specifically for the Waratahs like you normally would in a super round. You'd find a couple of plays that might work against the opposition, or you'd be worried about a couple of their plays that you might prep for. We haven't done any of that this week or the last couple of weeks. We've really focused on the systems that we want to put in place. So I expect they'll be the same. Their players will be getting up to speed with their systems, and we'll be doing the same. But I think it'll be a really entertaining game to watch for sure.
It wasn't, probably not the Waratahs' most successful season last year, and as you mentioned, they've got a lot of new faces in. How much of a challenge are you expecting from them throughout the season?
I think all the Australian teams are going to be better this season. So with the Rebels players being distributed around the Australian teams, I think that's making the Australian team stronger. We've certainly noticed that with the Rebels players that we've got. They've brought really good attitude and intensity to our training, and they've got a really good skill set. So the other teams would be the same. So the depth of the teams around Australia is certainly going to give them an advantage over last season. I think, if I just look at the Waratahs this week, they're very dangerous. You know, a big forward pack and a very dangerous backline outfit, and I imagine that's sort of what we're going to see from them all year. Yeah, disappointing year last year for them. They had a lot of injuries, a lot of front row injuries, which really hampered their progress throughout the year. And there's been some articles about how they've prepared their field a little bit differently this year. So hopefully picking up less injuries there. But I just expect a more consistent performance from them throughout the competition.
What are you expecting from Joseph Suaalii?
Well, we saw a bit of him with the Wallabies last year, and I thought he had some really standout moments. So what are we expecting? More of the same, I guess. You know, a dangerous ball runner, really good offload, good under the high ball. So, whether they're going to be finding that connection to utilise all of his skills, we'll have to wait and see. But I think he's a quality player and certainly someone that is worth watching.
How important is it for competition and for Australian rugby in general to have players, exciting players like him who bring fans to the ground?
Yeah, and exciting players that we bring to the game as well. We haven't got our Wallaby players playing this weekend, but I've been really impressed with their attitude. So they had 5 weeks off post the Northern Hemisphere tour, and you can kind of go one or two ways there. You can take a really good break away from rugby and try and physically get a deload and mentally get a deload, or you can tick things over and make sure that you're in really good condition when you come back into the Super Rugby programs. And we've seen that with all of our players. They've come back in really good condition and really impressed with the way that they've been training. So when you sort of look at the two teams, we've got enough players at the moment to train 15 on 15, and when you look at the two teams and the bulk of the Wallabies are in the other team because we're not prepping them to play this weekend, but that other team that's out there on the paddock, they're doing some pretty special stuff. So with all the Wallaby players that have come out of that tour, I think they've all been reinvigorated. The rugby public in Australia have certainly been reinvigorated by what Joe's done and what the team have done. I'm looking forward to watching all of the Wallaby players transition back into Super Rugby this year.
Heading to Fiji for the first game, but first you've got another trial match in Canberra. How important is that for the team spirit to have that home crowd before kicking off for the season?
You mean in the trial game next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, so our next trial game is at Marist, 2 p.m. next week, which is one of our feeder schools into the senior rugby ranks in Canberra. So it's great to be firstly playing at the school and to be sort of interacting with the local community again. We're playing this weekend up at Barrel, and I'd expect a few supporters would go up there. But yeah, it's very important for us. I mean, a big part of our program is connecting with the community and making sure that we appreciate the opportunity that we've got to play and live in Canberra. That'll be a very important one for us. I think, whilst the Wallabies aren't playing this week, we'll get a clearer indication of the team that's going to play against Fiji. We'll give those guys an opportunity next week to most likely start the game next week. So that'll give us a really good indication of how we're going to go in the first round. But it's a tough, challenging start for us this year. We've got the first game in Fiji, playing in Suva. We've got at least 12 hours of travel on the Thursday. We get over there sort of Thursday night. We have a captain's run in the 80% humidity that we're going to feel in Suva, which is completely different to Canberra. We've sort of got the dry heat. We get the temperatures that they're going to get over there, but we haven't got the humidity, so we'll acclimatise ourselves hopefully a little bit on that Friday when we get over there. but it's always a challenge playing against the Drua. We didn't have to play them in Fiji for the last couple of years, so this is a real challenge for us for the start of the season. But then, the second round we get back at home against the Force, which we're certainly looking forward to.
And you think those fans will sort of bring the players, the boys will feel connected sort of heading over, because obviously after the first game isn't in at home, so it's kind of, will help them, gauge what the season will be like in a way. Do you think that helps?
It always helps when we play at home, yeah. We've got a really loyal supporter base. They give the boys a lot of confidence, particularly, if you look at our numbers over the last couple of years, it's been steadily increasing in terms of crowd numbers coming through the gate, but it's not the number that we've had in previous years. In our heyday when we were filling the stadium, 25,000 people. But the people that do turn up, they're very vocal, very passionate about the Brumbies, know their rugby, somewhat intimidating to the opposition team as well. So we certainly enjoy, we get a massive lift out of playing in front of our supporters. And yeah, you're right, the game at Marist will give us a taste of that before we head over to Fiji. So we'll hopefully give the boys a little bit of confidence going over to Fiji as well.
Are you disappointed, given what you were saying about the fans not being as much come to the ground as during the heyday, that Canberra wasn't giving a game during the World Cup?
Yeah, like everything sort of affects our crowd numbers, I guess, in terms of Wallaby success, Wallaby performances, things like that, getting games here in Canberra for special events. That sort of all affects everything. But for us right now, we want to make sure that we're putting on a really good spectacle. I think the only thing that we can really control about that is trying to get into the community, show them that we appreciate their support. We would love more people to come out and create an unbelievable atmosphere for the players. And we want to put a really good show on for the supporters that come. So, we're very conscious of playing a different brand when we play at home. It's something that the local community and supporters can be very proud of.
Thank you so much.
Just check if there's any questions of yours. Have you guys got any questions from your end?
One or two if possible. Thanks, Bernie. Just on Super to begin with, do you think, given the really difficult start, Fiji in Fiji and taking on last year's finalists in rounds 3 and 4, might you actually even potentially rest a couple of guys so you can target and ensure that you can back up really well after the weeks after the first round?
Well, obviously this weekend we're not playing our Wallabies, and we want to sort of see how they progress with training. So the Wallaby group are training this morning we've got a captain's run out here this morning, but the Wallaby group are going through a pretty heavy session right now. They'll also have another session tomorrow morning. We want to see how our guys go in the trial game today before we sort of make any decisions around what that first round team looks like. But we've got, like I said, the Wallaby players that have come back into the program have really lifted the intensity and the quality of our training. And so we'd want to get those guys out there as soon as possible. We're very conscious that there will be some Wallaby rest protocols in place. I'm not sure if you're aware of those, but I think they're talking about 7 games is going to be too much of a stretch for the players. So there's going to be a rest in the first 7 weeks for the Wallaby players. So that's something that we have to consider as well.
Sure. Lots of talk about players and all players off contract and so forth. How important is keeping people like Lenny Yukateo and Noah Lolosio in the programs, long term, and if they do go away, managing to get back sooner rather than later?
The Brumbies' success over the years, I feel, has been, and rightly or wrongly, whether you say that we've had success, making the finals every year, whether you think that's successful or not, we've had a really good program that's been consistent, and I think cornerstone of that successful, consistent performance that the boys put in every week is that we keep our squad together, and not just through the season, with good management, but from season to season. And that's generally been a point of difference between us and the other teams in Australia, is that we do keep that player cohort together. and so it's massively important for us to keep those players, particularly when you're talking about world-class players. And I genuinely feel that some of our Wallaby players are world-class players now, and can they make a difference between winning or losing a competition? Yep, definitely. So we want to, as much as possible, we want to keep those players together. If they are to go overseas for a period to gain experience, then we would love to get them back as soon as possible as well. But sort of those negotiations really sit with Rugby Australia for all of our top line players, the Wallaby players. Most of those negotiations are with Rugby Australia at the moment.
Can Noah Lawler see off the back of a great year with Wallabies where he played so much in 10? Do you think that he can come back with that confidence and drive the Brumbies to not just a final but a first championship in 2 decades?
Yeah, they're very impressive. We played him in as many games as possible last year with the sole aim of trying to develop him into the number 110 in the world. And then on the back of the Super Rugby season, he got a lot of game time with the Wallabies, which has given him the opportunity to develop into a much better player than he was at the start of the season last year. We've already seen that, the way that he's come back. He's in really good condition physically, mentally in the right space, making really smart decisions out on the field, playing with a lot of confidence, driving standards in and around the place. His skill set has gone to a new level as well. So, having chatted to him, having chatted to Joe about the Wallaby program, it really suited Noah. It was something that gave him a great opportunity to develop. And is he going to be a 5'8" who can take us through the championship? I guess you look at the whole team, and it never comes down to one person, and we never really look at the end product. We're always just looking at the performances for this week. If we can get a string of those together, then we know at the back end of the season we should be in the right position to give ourselves a chance to do that. But for right now, it's about making sure that they're ready to play this weekend.
Just lastly, I know that you touched upon the community engagement and the importance of playing a great style of rugby. The decision not to have a World Cup match there in 27 in Canberra, I know that the economics behind it and so forth in the stadium, but from someone who knows Canberra rugby very, very well and the wider regions, how much of a blow is it for high performance, given how many Wallabies come through the Brumbies and inspiring the next generation?
Yet to be seen, right? I mean, you're right. There are a lot of negotiations that go on behind the scenes, and everything would have been weighed up there. From our perspective, we've got a lot of really passionate supporters, and disappointing for them not to have that ability to watch a game here in Canberra. Probably something I can't really speculate on more than that, except to say that disappointing from our perspective, in the rugby community within Australia and proudly representing this region. We would love to have had a game to showcase the game at the top level, but we can't do anything about that right now. The only thing that we can do is make sure that we're putting really good performances out there for the local fans who love coming to support us.